Yes, my name is Richard Lee, and I was taking advantage of the military. They did crimes on me and then cover them up on me, taking my rights away and leaving me in pain and suffering all my life. It first started when I was 5 years old in David H. Berger's backyard. My stepdad went over there to see him and told us to go play in the backyard. So we did. There was a kid back there. He was 17. I was 5. He was playing with a dog. Me and my brother decided to play bounty hunters. I would count, and they'd go hide. Anyways, there was a guy standing there, kept begging me to come over to pet the dog. I didn't want to. I kept telling him no. He said the dog was friendly, that I can go pet him. He's a good dog, he says. So I got him to shut me up. I went over and pet the dog. And he was a good dog. He really was. He was a great dog. Then next thing I know, the kid said, "Sick him." And the dog did. I got away from the dog once. He grabbed me back by my ass and pulled me back and tore me up again. Then the adults come out and get the dog off of me. I was rushed to the base hospital. The guy's son came into the base hospital and asked me what he should do. I told him, do not put the dog to sleep. Put the guy to sleep. It was his fault for sicking the dog on me. He said he couldn't do that. He said that I told him that if he's putting the dog to sleep, that I was coming after him. Because it wasn't the dog's fault. It was the guy's fault for saying sick him. And the dog listened to his command. Well, anyways, at the hospital, the guy, the general, maybe he wasn't general at the time, David H. Berger, comes in and tells me he was covering it up, that I couldn't do nothing until I was 18 years old. I asked the guy what was his name. He told me David H. Berger. He told me he was covering it up until I was 18 when I could file charges against it. So I asked him what was his name. He told me. He said something and walked out. I was salty, but I did what he said. I waited till I was 18. But there was another case. It was a year later. Year after. I was going to school, and when I went to school, I looked like I was always in a fight every day. Teachers come up to me and says, "Mr. Lee, what's wrong with you?" He said, "Why do you look like you fighting every day?" I says, "I'm not fighting nobody every day." They say, "You gotta be fighting. You got too many cuts all over your faces and shit." And I says, "It's not from fighting." And then somehow she did get it out of me. I told her my stepdad, beating the shit out of me every day. Every single day of my life, he beat the shit out of me. She grabbed me by my arm, took me out of school, and brought me up to The military. I kept telling her it was a bad idea. We walked in the office, and guess what? Sitting right there at the office, it was David H. Berger. Are you fucking kidding me? David H. Berger was standing right there. He said, "What can I do for you guys?" My teacher says he wants to make a complaint. David says, "Why?" My teacher tells him. He came to my house one time and never came back. My stepdad tells me he covered it up. 16 years I was getting beaten because of that motherfucker. And there was another case, another time. I was 16 and a half years old. I was jumped by 7 Marines. 7. They beat me. I fell to the ground. They repeatedly kicked me in my ribs. My ribs. Busting 7 ribs. Picking me up off the ground. One of the guys took out a knife and stabbed me in the fucking stomach. Guess what? An MP shows up to my hospital. My hospital. Made a cop leave. But see, I took a statement down that day. I gave a statement to the hospital. What happened? MP comes in and says, "Mr. Lee, there's nothing we can do." They was covering it up. And I asked him. I says, "Was his name David H. Berger?" He told me yes. Oh boy, I was pissed. I was pissed. He covered that up. Schools told me I could not touch the people. One of the kids that jumped me went to my school. The other guys was Marines. When they picked me up from the ground, I couldn't do nothing. This guy was 3 times my size. Bodybuilder, grab a hold of me. My friends chased him down the beach. They got away. They left me in pain and suffering my whole life. They took my rights away from me to let the guilty walk free. His son, his Marines, my stepdad, all took advantage of me. And David H. Berger was the one to cover everything up on me. That's not right. And I will be suing for billions and billions of dollars for pain and suffering and taking my rights away from me. Your guys and you and your son will be facing court martial for your crimes on me.